A viewer asked, what would be the best strategy to stop a player from ruining a campaign with mind reading? It's easy. Make all your NPCs undead. I'm probably missing the point of a long two-part question on Facebook, but this is the question I'm going to try to answer. You can do all kinds of things to hose mind reading, but this GM wants to do so in a reasonable way without hosing their players completely and generally being a dick, so making all your NPCs immune to mind-affecting spells is probably not the right way to go. But if an unexpected player ability is running wild, there is nothing wrong with implementing in-world measures to counteract that ability, as long as A, these countermeasures make sense in the context of your setting, and B, you don't overuse them. Remember, if the player is focusing on this ability so much, they probably enjoy it, and if possible, you want to let them keep doing their thing as long as it isn't ruining the enjoyment of the other players or crippling your ability to make a compelling narrative. For example, if a sorcerer or psionic character is spamming detect thoughts or read minds during non-combat encounters, and that gives them an advantage in negotiating and finding clues, that's fine. In fact, maybe you can use that to plant plot hooks for them. If it reveals a would-be traitorous NPC, that'll change your story, but you should have a way to recover. If it's going to spoil your story arc by revealing a dark secret known to the king or to a critical quest giver, maybe that's not so good. But knowing that these and other spells exist, it makes sense that a powerful individual like a king would keep a mage, scion, or priest around whenever they're in public. These spellcasters may or may not be powerful enough to actually stop the mind reading, but if they can even detect it using magic, psycraft, or spellcraft, that would create major legal or social consequences to using such powers in the presence of the king. Not only is this reasonable in-world, but it leaves the player with opportunities to use the power elsewhere, on shopkeepers, shady dealers, plus they can use it if they are able to sneak into a room with the target without being noticed. But this should still make it much harder to use in an audience with the king, or at least it prevents it from being used without consequences. If the ability causing problems is actually detect thoughts, or the psionic version read thoughts, you should also remember that it only reads surface thoughts, so there's a lot of GM judgment to determine what the target is thinking about while they are talking. Certainly, even if the spell would give away that he's hiding something, they probably won't get details of what he's hiding without asking more questions to try and trick him into thinking about it, an act which itself may reveal their suspicions. Also, when you don't want a character to be charmed or to have their mind read, there are a number of ways to buff an NPC's will saves, from the Iron Will feat to the Magic Item Compendium's Armor and Shield Augment Crystal of Mind Cloaking, which can get you +1, +3, or +5 competence bonus to will versus mind affecting effects for 500, 4,000, or 10,000 gold piece value. If you make the character in question psionic, Conceal Thoughts is a level 1 self-buff that gives an untyped +4 bonus and lasts for hours. Plus there are a number of other powers and arcane and divine spells that can help. Unlike most psionics, spells can usually be cast on others, so while the king himself may not be a caster, his mystical advisor could provide some buffs. As usual, some of my specific advice is based on 3.5 edition Dungeons & Dragons, but I mostly try to focus on concepts which are more generally applicable. With a little work, hopefully you can come up with your own strategies to stop whatever other abilities might be abused in your game. Just remember that if a player is abusing an ability so much, there's a good chance they enjoy it, and you don't want to wreck their fun if you can avoid that. So try to find a solution that makes sense in-world in your campaign setting. Save custom ability hosing monsters or house rules as a last resort. And whatever your solution, be careful not to make the countermeasures so common that your player's ability starts to feel useless. Ideally, they can keep using it all over the place, with a few common sense exceptions, like not in the king's court, and maybe that one rare monster that is immune. Do you have a question about running an RPG campaign or anything else? I'm not really an expert, but if people keep asking, I may just take a stab at it. And check out the drama, humor, and ongoing illustrated story of Tales from My D&D Campaign. Please click the like button.
before it clicks you.